Well, hey there, friends. Welcome to the podcast. We've got some year end fun coming up for you this week. I am a big planner. I love thinking about the new year. It's kind of like Mondays are my favorite day of the week, oddly enough, because I have the whole week ahead of me that I get to kind of create whatever it is I'm going to create during that week. I love Mondays. I'm always kind of sad on Thursdays because my team is off. We have had a 4-day work week for, I don't know, 15 years probably. And so they're all off on Fridays. And so I'm always kind of sad on Thursday. It's like, where's my friends? Where's all my team? They're all leaving. So I get so excited on Monday when that rolls back around because I get to see what we're going to create. So every year since I started the podcast, which has been several years now, I love doing a year end kind of a wrap up. And I'm probably not going to talk about too much of it. You can find the podcast, but I talk about my list of top 100 tolerations. In other words, what are the things in my life that I'm just tolerating? Like it could be, baseboards in a certain room that need to get wiped down. And every time I look at them, I'm like, ugh, I need to do that. Those are tolerations, things in your life, your world, your work, could be your office or a file or a course that you wanted to take or something you want to finish or, I don't know, an article that you want to write because you want to submit it or whatever it might be. We have so many tolerations. So I always make a list of my top 100 tolerations and I can get through the first 60 pretty easily. About 80, I start running out of fuel. And the last 15, maybe 20 are always hard for me. So if you've never done that before, I highly encourage it. It's kind of like a massive to-do list, except what happens is you end up subconsciously getting them all done. And by the time you revisit it the next year, they're pretty much done. You'll have 50% of them done easily. So I love that. But what I want to talk to you today is about how to think about wrapping up, kind of approaching the end of the year from a business strategy perspective. So we think about the end of the year as being, we made another run around the sun and we finished this recording an election year and we're not sure what's going to happen in the future. That's all right. We're just in it for the ride. But as it has to do with your business, how can you wrap up your year in your business? So, the first thing that I want to make note of is that before you know where you want to go, you have to know where you're at and where you've been. So, this is where your financial data really comes in handy. And as well, any of the statistics that you've been keeping in your practice, such as the number of new patients you had every month, the number of follow-up visits, how many reschedules did you have or not have, how many missed appointments or no-shows did you have or not have. And also then what does that translate into revenue? And obviously, I want you to have growth year over year. I want you to be up a good 15, 20% every single year. That's what a healthy growing business is doing, especially in the area of wellness, because so many people need what we do, and they're becoming disillusioned more and more every day with the kind of care that the standard Western medicine or conventional medicine is offering. So you want to go back and you want to review 2024. Now, this should take you, well, if I was going to, I don't know, shortcut it, I would say it'll take you an hour. But I actually think it's probably going to take you, if you really do a thorough job and you set aside some time, it's probably going to take you a couple of hours to just kind of coalesce all that data and look back over 2024 and see, okay, where am I ending this year? And then you want to compare that to 2023. Like, where did you go? Celebrate your wins because hopefully your revenue was up. If it's not, then we need to get you some help so that you can start to grow and scale, make more money, systematize your business, and get more organization involved. So we want to look at your financial data, your patient data, and also I like to look at operational efficiency. That's kind of, big word, but I like to look at how much more streamlined is my business running this year compared to last year? How many more systems have I put in place? How much easier is it for the front desk or whoever's interacting with your patients directly? How much easier is it for them to get them scheduled or rescheduled or follow up or invoice or, balance out the credit cards at the end of the day? All of those little things just add up to time savings. When you systematize and you can make it smooth and efficient, it ends up being a tremendous amount of time savings, and that time savings ends up translating into dollars in your pocket at the end of the year. So, what did you do in 2024? Now, you know what I'm going to say next. What are you going to do in 2025? Now, that is up to you. And I'm a big proponent of building your practice your way. What does it look like for you? it's not what it looks like for me. What does it look like for you? What's important to you? Do you want a 3-day a week practice? I have a very dear friend. She worked as a chiropractor. She practiced Monday, Wednesday, Friday for years. That's it. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, she took a 2-hour lunch so she could take a nap. They retired, they had plenty of money, they were happy. Her husband was the front office person and she was a chiropractor, and it worked out great, and they did great, put 3 kids through college, they did all the things. She worked 3 days a week because that's what she wanted. She said, "I need a day off in between." She did that for 40 plus years. So what does your practice look like for you? I think you gotta get clear about that. You can't build the metrics for what you want until you know what you want. So do you want to work 3 days a week? Do you want to work 5 days a week? Are you the kind of practitioner that wants associates to be in your practice with you so you've got somebody else to kind of bounce that stuff off? Is that what's right for you? I don't know, and I can't say. But what I do know is you have to be really clear about that. That's what's super, super important. So you want to set those goals for 2025. Define what your big picture is. What is the thing that when you look ahead next year in 2025, you might say, well, I think I want to launch a program or some kind of package, or I want to do something that has to do with recurring revenue, or I want to create a little mini membership to create some recurring revenue. Whatever it is, whatever you want. But decide what's your big strategy. Maybe it's list growth. Maybe it's networking. Maybe you want to get out in the community a little bit more. Maybe you want to do some like charitable nonprofit type work to kind of get out and give back to the community. But you want to kind of set those goals for the coming year, the coming 12 months. And so you're really clear about that. And then what are your goals? Do you want to grow your business 20%? Great. Then let's figure out how we're going to do that. And that leads me to point number 3. We need to create an action plan for the new year. So, what does that look like? Well, every year at the start of the year, I have 3 big goals, and they're company wide goals. And my whole team knows what those 3 goals are, and they change at the beginning of the year. What are the 3 goals? So, one of your goals might be to grow by 20%. Okay, great. Let's say that's your goal. Then the next question is, what's your strategy? You can't just go into the year and go, I want to grow by 20%, and I'm just going to sit back and magically wait for the growth fairy to drop it all in my lap. It doesn't work that way. What we want to do is we want to say, well, how am I going to get there? Well, the first thing that I need to do is I maybe want to get a reactivation campaign for my existing patients that I haven't seen in the last year. We don't count how much lost revenue and, impact is in those old patients. I used to call them dead patients, and I don't call them that anymore. But like inactive patients, we'll call them. And those patients already worked with you. They've already paid you. They've already had success, one would hope. And they're just waiting. If you'll just kind of give them a little nudge, give them a little push, give them a little bit of some reason to kind of interact with you again, you would be shocked at how many people will say, "Oh my gosh, yes, I do. I need help. My digestion is all screwed up now." So you may want to start something that has to do with those old patients, those inactive patients. You may want to launch a new service. You may want to create a brand new marketing campaign. You may want to redo your website. Lots of practitioners want to do that. Whatever it is, like I'm going to grow. This is how I'm going to do it. So get really clear about what your objective is and then make a plan. Break those goals down into like quarterly and monthly and weekly. Now, I have to admit that I'm not as good about that part. This is where this is where I get into trouble is I will have the goal, like I want to do it, and I'll say, okay, this is what we're going to do, but I don't set out a plan. And I've watched myself do this over the years. And whenever I just have the goal, like kind of like a vision board, right? I'm just imagining it, but then it doesn't happen the way that I think. And usually that's because I didn't have the action steps to go along with it. So for you, even if those action steps are just something simple like get a business coach, which I would be happy to help you with inside Clinical Business Academy, something like that. It could be that you want to join your local chamber of commerce, or you may want to join a BNI or some other networking group. What is your action step? Where are you going to go find people that are of like mind that can maybe refer to you or people that you can refer to How are you going to accomplish that goal? Is it that you need to hire someone else in your practice? Maybe you hate social media, but you think, I really know that my patients are really on Instagram a lot. I got to get better about that. So maybe your goal next year, in the next 12 months, is to really start to develop a presence on Instagram. And that could be what your goal is. So then you would say, okay, what do I need to do that? Well, I don't like doing social media, so I need to find somebody to help me. So what's your plan? First step is look on Upwork, let's just say. Maybe step 2 is to hire on Upwork. Maybe step 3 is to write out the top 10 things that your ideal patients struggle with. Do you get what I'm saying? You just want to write out that action step. Break it into steps or actions that you can actually follow and check off the list. And then look for areas that you can also improve. I think we forget about that. Like in our growth strategy, there might be some things right underneath your nose that by just doing a little bit of tweaking, you can improve your revenue. So you only have 2 dials. I always say this, you only have 2 dials in your business to turn. 1, you either increase revenue, or 2, you decrease expenses. That's it. And so you may need to be the wizard behind the curtains. It's kind of like turning those dials, trying to make that revenue go up by making the expenses go down, or both is even better. So lastly, I want you to find someone that can hold you accountable to your 2025 goals. Now, unless you just really have a remarkable relationship with your life partner, spouse, that's awesome. You can share them with them. But I find that very often, unless the spouse is directly involved in business, the spouses aren't always the best people to hold us accountable. Because A, they don't get it. They don't get the business because you're in it and they're not. They don't really get it. So they can't really provide that support. And then the second reason is because sometimes spouses just like, you're just irritated and your spouse is like, well, so did you meet your goal this week? And then, I get offended because he asked me the question when he's asking me because I asked him to ask me, but I'm just mad because he asked me because I don't want him asking me, but I asked him to ask me. You know how it is. Us women, I can speak for us. We're crazy. So maybe, maybe not your husband, but find somebody that you can share your goals with and be clear, write them out. These are the top 3 objectives, I'm going to say, in 2025. This is what I want to accomplish. And here's kind of my high level action plan for how I want to get there. And when you have that, and then you, by the sheer act of sharing that with someone, you will not believe what that does internally in your brain, because now your brain knows you are on the hook, baby, for all of it. And you better get it done because your person is going to hold you accountable and you give them permission to hold you accountable. That's why it doesn't work with a husband, because we just get mad. So you want to give them permission to hold you accountable or to check in with you every, month. How's it going? Like, tell me what's happening. Someone who really cares and is really interested in you. And that's how we make progress. I can tell you again, the years that I have not met my goals have been when I have not been specific about the goals and I have not had anybody to hold me accountable. Even if you don't spend time looking back, like in the last 12 months, to kind of see where you were, where you're at, what kind of growth you've had, even if you didn't do that, you can always start today by saying, okay, I am where I am, and I've made the decisions that I've made. And so what do I need to do next? What's my next step to move the ball down the field to grow a better practice? The 3 most common complaints that I hear from practitioners, and I survey everybody, and they all say some version of these 3 things. Are you ready? This is what everybody complains about. Every wellness practitioner that I have spoken to, this is it. It's always in here. Number 1, they almost always have marketing at the top of the list. They need help with marketing. Number 2 is organization, which translates into business systems. And the systems basically run the business so that you can step away and go take a vacation and still there's money being made because you have those systems in place. Number 1 is marketing. Number 2 is organization or systems. And number 3 is always growth or more money, more revenue. You want to make an income that's worthy of the transformation that you're providing. Those are the top 3 complaints. But when you plan ahead and you say, okay, I want to increase my marketing exposure, I want to build in more systems in my business, and I really know that after I do those 2 things, I'm going to experience more financial growth. it makes it really easy to start checking off the items on your list. So this year, for the last month or so, I've really been working on my quarterly checklist. Like, what am I going to do each quarter? What is my one objective in the quarter? And even if it takes me a whole year to execute on a project, I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that I'm moving the ball down the field, however slowly or quickly I can do it. But I can't do that without a plan. So, my challenge to you is as we wrap up 2024, can you even believe it? Is number one, look back, celebrate your wins, figure out what you did well and what you still need to improve. Number two, write down your goals. Decide what you want for 2025. Even if you're listening to this down the road, what does the next 12 months look like for you? What do you want? Then create your action plan and then finally stay accountable. So that's what I have for you this week. I hope that as we go into the holiday season that you have a wonderful, amazing holidays. Take some time for yourself, relax, regenerate, spend time appreciating and being grateful for what we have because we really are so blessed in this country. So, anyway, much love to all of you. Thank you so much for listening. I love you all. Link to Clinical Business Academy if you'd like to join me. It would be my honor to help you in the new year grow the business that you have always dreamed of having. And I can help you get there. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you next week on the podcast.